Every market day in Eke village, as the sky turned pale and the first trader opened her stall, a strange sound filled the air. It was soft at first, like a sigh carried on wind. Then it grew louder, crying, heavy, and heartbroken. No one could say where it came from, but everyone heard it. It drifted through the stalls, through the woven baskets and clay pots. The older women whispered, "She is still crying." The younger ones lowered their eyes. Everyone knew the legend, the bride who vanished, the bride who still kept crying amongst them. The market had once been a place of laughter, where deals were struck with claps and praise. But since the crying began, things had changed. Stalls closed early, traders rushed home before the shadows stretched too far. Food spoiled quickly, palm wine turned bitter overnight. Lovers fought more. Salt refused to dissolve. Some claimed they saw a veiled woman near the shrine, barefoot, wearing white and weeping. But when they looked again, she was gone. People avoided the old paths. Even the wind seemed to avoid the well in the middle of the market. The elders called a secret meeting under the great tree. Elder Oji, the most respected, opened the gathering. "This crying must end," he said. "It is not of this world," Elder Mba agreed. "The market is cursed. The dead walk among us." A younger trader, Nwakego, spoke quietly. "I heard my grandmother speak of a bride who vanished before her wedding. Her name was Mmesoma. She was meant to marry the merchant's son." The elders exchanged glances. That story had been buried for years. Now it was rising again, like smoke from a forgotten fire. The next day, the elders gathered at the well. They poured libations, lit herbs, and called upon the spirits. "If you are among us, speak," Elder Oji said. "Let us bring you peace." As the last drop of palm wine touched the earth, the crying began again. But now it was louder, more painful. The well trembled. Mist rose around it. A shape was formed. A woman in white, face covered, fingers thin and trembling. She pointed to the market square, then vanished. The wind screamed. The ground beneath their feet turned cold. People ran, dropping their baskets, leaving their goods behind. But Elder Oji stood firm. "We must know what happened," he said. "We must dig up the truth." The next morning, they returned to the market and opened the sealed records from 30 years ago. In them, they found her name, Mmesoma, daughter of Eke. Her wedding to Arinze, the merchant's son, had been planned with fanfare, but she disappeared the night before the ceremony. Nobody was found. Arinze left the village days later, never to return. No one spoke of it again until now. A messenger was sent to the nearby village of Iru, where Arinze was rumored to live as a wealthy palm wine trader. When he was summoned back, he laughed. "That old story," he said. "She ran away. I did nothing." But the villagers of Eke insisted. "You must come," Elder Oji said. "She cries still, and she points at you." Arinze's smile faded. He agreed reluctantly. When he entered the market for the first time in 30 years, the wind howled through the stalls. The crying returned, sharper than before. He shivered. At the shrine, Elder Oji placed a white cloth, a mirror, and a silver ring on the ground. "This belongs to her," he said. Arinze looked pale. "I haven't seen this in years," he muttered. The spirit appeared again, slowly rising from the mist. This time she was clearer. Her veil lifted slightly, revealing her hollow eyes. She pointed directly at Arinze. Her voice echoed through the market. "He left me waiting. He buried me with silence." Arinze dropped to his knees, trembling. "I was warned," he said. "I had no choice." "What warning?" Elder Oji asked. Arinze's voice cracked. "That night, a shadow came to my door. It said if I married Mmesoma, my family would die. I panicked. I ran. I left her a note. The spirit hissed. No note reached me. I waited in my dress until the sun rose. Then I went to the well. The shame was too heavy. I gave myself to silence. Gasps broke out. A woman had died not from sickness, but from heartbreak. The elder stepped back. The truth has now laid bare. Arinze wept. I did not know you would do that. I thought you would understand. Mmesoma's ghost turned from him. Understanding cannot follow a broken vow. Only justice can. Elder Oji stepped forward. What justice do you seek? The spirit turned slowly. One night, let him feel what it is to wait. Let him carry my sorrow in the place beyond. The villagers murmured. The place beyond? The spirit's world? Arinze looked up, pale and shaking. Will I return? That depends on you, she replied. I waited for death. You must wait for truth. At sunset, the ritual began. Arinze was bathed, clothed in white, and made to sit beside the well. Elder Oji whispered the incantations. The villagers formed a circle. The wind had died down. Then came the cold. Mmesoma emerged and reached for his hand. When their fingers touched, his eyes closed. His body slumped. His spirit had been taken. The villagers gasped. Elder Oji held up his hand. Do not fear. He walks the path of pain. Let the spirit teach him what time and silence have hidden. Arinze awoke in the land without sun. The sky above him was ash and grey. The ground below was dust. He stood in a village with no walls, no sound, only eyes watching from shadows. Mmesoma stood beside him, unchanged. This is where broken promises live, she said. Here we remember. They walked in silence, past countless women, some clutching veils, others holding torn rings. They all waited, she whispered, like me, but their grooms never returned. Arinze could not speak. His feet felt heavy. The weight of his guilt had finally found form. They reached a pool of black water. In its surface, Arinze saw images. Mmesoma alone, waiting in her dress. Mmesoma stepping into the well. Mmesoma sinking. He covered his face. Enough, he begged. Please. But Mmesoma wasn't done. She took him to a hall of echoes. Inside, voices whispered. I waited. He never came. I was forgotten. The cries grew louder, surrounding him. Arinze collapsed. I did not know, he cried. I did not know. Mmesoma knelt beside him. Now you do. Now carry it. He wept until his ears turned to ash. When Arinze awoke again, he was back by the well. The villagers rushed to him. He looked aged, hollow, changed. She showed me everything, he whispered. She deserved better. Elder Oji nodded. And what will you do with what you've seen? Arinze stood slowly. I will not run again. I will build her a shrine. I will speak her name. I will honor the one I left behind. That day, work began. The market stood silent. Even the crying had stopped, but everyone knew she was still watching. Arinze used his wealth to build a small shrine beside the well. It was white, with her name etched in stone. Mmesoma, bride of sorrow, voice of the forgotten. Inside, he placed her mirror, her ring, and a woven veil. Each market day, he lit incense there and bowed his head. Women began visiting. Some left notes, some cried. All felt seen. The shrine became sacred. No one touched it without bowing. No goods were sold near it. Even the birds never perched on its roof. It had become holy. Time passed, but the story of the crying bride never faded. Travelers heard it, priests whispered it in sermons. A woman once came from across the river, broken by betrayal, and sat by the shrine. When she left, she smiled for the first time in months. Another left her wedding ring behind and walked away free. Arinze welcomed them all. This place is for the unheard, he would say. Mmesoma waited for someone to listen. Now she listens in return. Peace settled over Eke, but the market was forever changed. Years passed and Arinze became known not for the wealth he once chased, but for the shrine he guarded. He aged gently, always dressed in white, always seated near the shrine when the sun rose. People began calling him the groom who returned. He accepted the name with humility. No one mocked him, even those who once blamed him now saw his sorrow. One night, as the moon bathed the shrine in silver, a gust of wind lifted Mmesoma's veil from the altar. For a moment, her laughter was heard, soft and brief. The shrine grew. More women carved messages into the walls. Some were names, others were vows broken too soon. One woman wrote, "I forgive you," and died peacefully that same week. It became a place of endings and beginnings. Priests from distant villages offered to rebuild it, but the people refused. It must remain as it is, Elder Oji said, built by the hands of the man who broke her and loved her too late. No one dared argue. The shrine was no longer just for Mmesoma, it was for every silenced heart. One morning, Arinze was found sitting upright at the shrine, eyes closed, arms resting on his knees. He was still, too still. When they touched him, he was cold. A peaceful smile rested on his lips. In his hand was a folded note. Elder Oji opened it slowly. It read, "I waited too, but now I go to meet her." They buried him beside the shrine, beneath the tree where they first called her spirit. The villagers sang, not with sorrow, but with thanks. The groom had kept his final vow. After Arinze's death, Elder Oji led the people in a final ritual. They called Mmesoma's name and thanked her for her patience, her pain, her power. No tears were heard that night. The well stood silent, the wind was warm, and the market, once haunted, now glowed. Every trader placed something by the shrine before they opened their store. Kola nuts, wrappers, earrings, or cowries. The shrine became part of their rhythm, their heartbeats. They believed it kept their business honest, their hearts clean. No vow was broken in Eke market without the truth behind it. Other villagers heard of the shrine. Some sent envoys, some sent broken brides. A few came mocking, but always left quiet. One man who mocked the shrine had his goods swallowed by flood the next day. The villagers warned him. The bride of Eke does not punish, but she remembers. He never returned. The shrine became known across regions as Ulondu Unwine, the house of the woman's spirit. Its story crossed rivers and lands, always told in low voices, always ending with the same warning: do not make promises you cannot keep. Elder Oji, old and grey, spent his last years near the shrine. He kept records of every visitor and their stories. When asked why he cared so much, he said, "Because silence is what killed her, and stories are what bring her peace." Before his death, he left a final instruction: never let the shrine be cleaned by a liar. Never let it be touched by someone who abandoned love. These words were carved above the shrine's door. They remained untouched, even when the village rebuilt their roads and painted new walls. A strong rain fell one season. The markets flooded, stalls broke, roofs collapsed, but the shrine stood untouched, not a stone out of place. People wept, not for the damage, but for the mercy. She protects us, they said. She guards this ground. The following week, every stall donated part of their profits to preserve the shrine. Traders gave freely. The villagers held a feast, not just to rebuild, but to honor the spirit bride who had made the market her home. That night, the moon was full, the well shimmered, and the air smelled like peace. A wealthy trader named Kosiso came from the north, hoping to buy the market square. She had heard of its success and wanted to turn it into a modern plaza. This shrine is charming, she said, but think of what could be built here. The elders refused. There is no market without her, they said. Kosiso laughed. The next morning, all her goods were stolen. The guards vanished. She left before sunrise. People said the shrine had whispered through the night. The market kept its soul. The bride had made her choice clear. New generations rose. They heard the story from their parents and neighbors. Some doubted it and some believed in it deeply. But all respected the shrine. Couples walked there before marriage. Lovers apologized there after fights. Vows were spoken and silence was never allowed to settle. The market became known not just for trade, but for truth. People came not to only buy or sell, but to heal. The story had grown into something sacred. No one left Eke without passing through the shrine's shade, even if only to whisper a name they once forgot. A traveler once asked, why does this shrine belong to only women? Elder Adobe, who had taken Elder Oji's place, replied, it doesn't. It belongs to anyone who knows what it means to wait in pain, to trust and to be left behind. Man or woman, rich or poor, spirit or flesh. The traveler bowed. That night he sat by the shrine and wept. When he left, he carved a single word into the wall, mercy. And so, another story joined, the many already living in the shrine's breathless silence. Each year, on the day Mmesoma vanished, the market closed early. The people dressed in white. No goods were traded. They gathered near the shrine. Musicians played soft flutes. Elders told her story again. Her name was sung with care. She waited. She wept. She walked again, they said, but in the end she was heard. On those nights, no crying echoed through the market, only music, candlelight, and the scent of old love rising from the earth like perfume from the past. No one dared forget. To forget was to wound her again. The shrine still stands today, simple, beautiful, powerful. Not all believe the story, not all must, but every trader knows that peace dwells there, and all who seek it must come clean. The world beside it reflects only those who carry no deceit, and the wind that brushes its roof carries no tears anymore, only grace and memory. Mmesoma's memory. Eke market may have changed with time, but one thing never did, the vow that changed everything. So if you ever walk through Eke market and you hear a soft humming, do not be afraid, do not run, stop, listen. That is her. That is the sound of a bride who waited, who wept, who watched, and who at last was heard. Do not speak carelessly, do not promise what you cannot keep. Her story walks beside every trade, every deal, and every vow. And though she no longer cries, her presence is still strong, not to haunt, not to punish, but to remind love must never be abandoned in silence. Thank you so much for watching. If you got to this point, please give this video a thumbs up. It will help grow my small YouTube channel. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on this story. If you haven't gone through my channel yet, do well to go through my channel and watch other interesting videos. Kindly subscribe and turn on post notifications so you get notified when I post more interesting contents like this. See you guys in my next video. Bye. Thank you for watching.